Oscar people. Hope you got it too.
Please welcome the wickedly talented one and only Adele Dazeem.
Oh, miss some bubbling now. It's all you got it too.
And the Academy Award for Best Picture.
La La Land.
The Oscar goes to James Cameron for Titanic.
I'm the king of the world!
I got the Oscar fever. Hope you got it too, yeah.
Hey.
Hello, welcome to the Poor Things roundtable discussion.
Extravaganza.
Yeah, we have a lot of great people here tonight. It's a very fascinating movie. It is I would say an Oscar frontrunner for quite a few awards. Maybe not some of the super big ones, but it definitely made an impression this year on the Academy. And there's a lot to talk about. So we brought a great panel today to discuss it. First, we're going to bring on John Automates. I stream with him quite often with Bonebridger, and we've collaborated many times. And I'm very happy that he's here, so I'm going to add him to the stage.
Hello. Hello. How's it going?
You're doing quite well. How are you doing?
Doing well. Ready to talk. We've been trying to talk about this movie for a while.
I know. That is very true. That is very true. And you know what? It's the day after tomorrow's the Oscars, so no time like the present, I guess, right?
For sure, for sure. Ready to talk about it. I know I've had a lot of thoughts about it. You've had a lot of thoughts about it. We've dropped hints and snippets here and there. Max is here, so we'll definitely get it. We'll get into some good conversation.
Yeah, nitty gritty.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to add to the stage a lovely lady, Andrea Pranzatelli. I had her on before. She is a musician, a comedian, an artist, and she has a great podcast, and she has a lot to say about this film. And I think she always has really great things to say about like social topics in general, like current social topics. So I'm thrilled to have her, Andrea Pranzatelli.
Hi, everybody. How's it going?
Hey.
Hola.
I'm excited to talk. Thank you for having me on. I'm very excited to talk about this. From being a guest on my podcast and stuff, I'm a very philosophically minded person, and this film inspired a lot of thought. So it's going to be a great thing to talk about.
Wonderful. We're very happy you're here.
Yeah, and it's International Women's Day, I think.
It is, yes.
Coincidentally,
I did not plan that, but so that's
celebrate.
Yes.
Is it the month? Is it the month?
Yeah, it's the month, but today specifically, I guess, is National Women's Day.
Maybe international.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Who knows?
Go figure. Happy International Women's Day.
I just saw a lot of bars. They were like, "Buy your woman a cocktail."
Yeah. That's the kind of day it is.
Yeah. So,
fair.
Cool. So now, and last but not least, we have Mark from Tales from the Shelf. Very excited. I've had him on for my Beau is Afraid, our Beau is Afraid live stream. And he was really excited to talk about this film as well. So we definitely want to have the opportunity to have him on. How are you doing, Mark?
I'm good. I had to race home from work. It was you work in a restaurant too, right, Tracy?
Yeah.
So you know all about people coming in at like the last minute and stuff. So I was worried I was going to be late, but managed to make it in time. Ready to talk some Poor Things with you people. So let's get into it.
For showing up.
Oh, fantastic. That you never know how late people are going to stay, and but that's like that's not a good time. You got out and you're here at 9 o'clock. Like that's not bad for a restaurant.
I like to throw it out there. If I think there's even a small chance that I might be late, I'll be like, hey, had some late tables, but no, it managed to be not bad. So grateful for that.
Oh, well, that's awesome.
It's working out. I love it. Thanks all for coming.
Yeah.
Oh, happy to be here.
Of course. Turn up.
So I think I have a lot well, not I wouldn't say a lot, but like some things written down that I want to talk about with this movie. But I feel like first things first, I just want to get maybe like a little, what your thoughts were regarding the film, like overall. So it doesn't have to be too specific. We'll definitely dive into specifics moving forward, but like how it made you feel, did you like it, and why you liked it, if you did, if you didn't.
General
and
vibe.
yeah, just generalizations. And we can start clockwise. So we can start with John, and then we'll go down to Andrea, and then we can go. Yeah, perfect.
I liked the film quite a bit. It was actually one of my favorite films last year. And I think one of the things that makes it my favorite film, and we talk about this all the time on like, especially like ISO cubes and things like that. Like we'll go into big stuff, but a lot of times we will dive into some of the other stuff that isn't considered as big, but are definitely better movies. And this is up there with that in terms of better movie. The thing I like best about it is the visual aspect. It's a beautiful film. Let's just get that out of the way, right? Like it's a very beautiful film, not just from the way the colors are, but from even how it's acted. It's beautifully acted. And my number one takeaway, and I'm curious if anybody else will agree, the idea of questioning the way things are, which is a pretty prevalent theme in the film, is probably my favorite part.
Yeah. Really well said. I love that. Completely agree.
Yeah, my mom just watched it today, and she said it was like a different form of reality or something. And
yeah,
really take away something a little off. It's like just those animals, for example. Like,
yeah, there's little snippets of obscure. For you, Andrea?
Okay, so to give my input on the film, I agree with what he said as well. It was beautifully made. Just the first scene. I'm a piano player, so seeing her smack her hands on the piano, that was like really intriguing for me. That kind of drew me in. I believe it was black and white in the beginning too, which I thought was really cool. Really good music. So just as an art piece alone, like let's say I hated all the themes, just visually and musically, it was beautiful. But in addition to that, for some reason, and this could be me projecting like on things that I'm thinking about in my life at the moment, but I thought that the main takeaway I got from it thematically, which I also liked, was questioning freedom of sexuality. I feel like personally as a woman, I feel like it's a never ending battle of trying to figure out if you're supposed to be like a good Catholic girl or have an orgy. Like, I feel like that's like the mental struggle of like women. It's like, I have these urges, like, but I'm a whore if I indulge in them. It's a thing. And again, I might be projecting on my own thoughts about what I thought the film was portraying, but there was obviously a lot of sexual theme in it. Like there was a lot of nudity. So for me, the theme really like asked me a lot of questions about human sexuality and like how free to be free and how reserved to be. And it was just really interesting.
Wow.
And that's it.
No, I agree with that. There's a lot in that. And I think seeing her just trying to do whatever she wants without influences is one of the most fascinating things of the movie. So yeah, I totally get that for sure. And Mark, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yes. So far, everything you guys have said, I agree with as well. Really well said. So I just rewatched it. I rewatched the first hour and a half last night, and then it got to be too late, and I couldn't finish the whole thing. So it is partially fresh still in my mind, but the biggest thing that I thought was interesting about it, first of all, when I watched it in theaters the first time, I was struck by, it reminded me of Barbie a little bit, just thematically. I liked Barbie, but I found this executed some of the same ideas like a little bit better. And so the thing that we'll unpack it as we go, but I found it really interesting how she is sort of, she meets all these different people. Like she's like, it's God, Willem Dafoe, Godwin, and then Max McCandles. And so she meets all these different people, and then she meets like Duncan Wedderburn. And so she takes like a little bit from each person, and then like she kind of learns from them and then moves on a little bit. Like Duncan is like very like possessive kind of, and he like wants to keep her like subjugated. and he's like very cocky and stuff in the beginning, and then as time goes on, she like starts to get bored of him and like moves on. He becomes like upset, which is like I felt that was pretty like relatable. I can't speak for it myself because I'm not like a woman, but it seems to be like that a lot of guys like to like keep a girl like under their thumb, and then when she starts to like express herself more and like do what she wants to do, he's like literally like bawling outside her window. So like I found that to be pretty interesting. Like he's obviously very insecure, but he tries to paint himself as being like so confident and stuff. So that was something that struck me on second watch, was just how as she kind of goes through all these, there's the title cards and stuff where she's like in Lisbon, and she's on the cruise ship, and then Paris and stuff, and each one sort of like marks a chapter in her journey, which we can unpack all that. But I really enjoyed that aspect of it, and just how it's really just her. It's sort of like a whole lifetime in a small amount of time, kind of. Like what a person would experience in the course of their whole life, like sort of shrunk down like a microcosm of that. So yeah, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves because we're gonna probably unpack.
You know what? We have to piggyback off that just a little bit, though.
Yeah,
because
that's what we're here for.
You're absolutely right. And not only is it the fact that like there's a level of cockiness, it's the fact that like she runs away with him. So now you're really like, like you're hyped now.
Yeah,
and
he's like oh, cool.
again,
like,
can't speak to it from like the woman perspective, but as a man perspective, could absolutely speak to like there's a feeling of excitement that could be there if you are in that situation. And so imagine now you're in a situation, it's like, oh man, this actually worked out. He's thinking we're traveling the world, we're doing everything, they're having sex all the time. He's thinking he's got it in the bag, and then when she decides to leave, now it's like, oof, well, wait a minute, what happens? And some people can go in, they can accept it, and other people, like you said, sometimes they're just like I want to keep it under the thumb. Yeah,
the whole facade just like crumbles when he's like, oh, I actually am not as cool as you thought I was. Yeah, and she's like learns more and more, and she's like, oh, you're actually not all.
And there's
that.
a scene he tries to stop her from learning more.
He literally doesn't want her to become smarter. Like he wants to keep her. Like he meets her when she's like in the sort of infantile state, and like that's when he likes her like most, I think. And then as she becomes smarter, it's kind of gross, but it's like that's how that's something about that run true, where it's like as she kind of became more independent and like free thinking, he's like, oh, this is getting out of control. Like this is too much. Like you're supposed to be, this sort of like underneath my thumb thing. So, but yeah.
Poignant.
Yeah. Andrea, it seemed like you wanted to chime in, but if I'm wrong, then
no, we can move on. I had a lot of thoughts, but we can move on to the next subject. That's fine.
Well, and I think what you guys were saying too about how when Duncan kind of now is kind of dealing with the fact that she doesn't necessarily want to be with him, or she's questioning things, he's trying to prevent that. I think it kind of is like such a great example of, she sees him as an adventure and like kind of has those rose-colored glasses on, and that's like a very natural thing that both women and men deal with when they first start dating someone, or when they're in the early stages. And then like there's something that you can see that just like it kind of shuts that light off and that spark, and it's kind of like, I don't know if I'm actually like into this person anymore. And some people stay in those relationships, or some people leave, but she just abruptly is like, nope, I'm good, like I'm gonna move on. And like that's such not a she doesn't feel that sorrow, because she's just seeing it as like this first experience that she has, kind of almost like if you were like middle school relationships, I guess they go on for 2 weeks and it's like, oh, it's over, and then you know
only we could keep it as real as she did.
So it's very interesting on that level for sure. I loved hearing all your first takes. I'm gonna just hit the chat real quick and see who there's quite an active chat, so I'm just gonna see who's here, and then we'll definitely get more into the conversation.
I wanted to add, I really just like how approachable the war was, because seeing stuff like, I don't know, I don't hate him, but Terry Gilliam's made some movies that didn't turn me on as much as this one did, and I thought it was a really cool adventure to jump into, and it was like, it's very consumable. I hope I can show it to as many people as I can forever.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got Velvet Elvis. How's it going? Velvet. He says, John, happy to see you here.
What's up?
Hey everyone, poor things. Whoop whoop.
Oh, what's up, Holland?
Brock Samsonite, you have made it, and we did not plan this at all.
No
So,
one knows.
I wonder how many people did like Barbie streams because of this, though. I think everyone in this room is not a huge Barbie fan. We all think it's fine. I think Andrea, I think you couldn't even get through it, actually.
Yeah. So I had heard, just to give like a little background. Indulging in film is kind of a new thing for me, and I've really been enjoying it lately. I've always been like a music person, and I don't know. I don't know what it is, but like I get lonely when I watch a movie by myself. So I've always like needed somebody around, and I just recently made a friend. I mean, of course I have Tracy, but she lives, I live in Philly and she lives in New York. I just made a female friend who's really into movies, and she's like so excited that she made a friend who like she can now show all these movies too. She's the one who showed me Poor Things. But anyways, I tried to watch Barbie just because it was such a cultural staple. And I'm like, I want to be able to like understand what people are talking about. It was very politically divided. It was like the left and the right were arguing about it. And I was like, I want to know what's going on. And I couldn't get past the first scene because like it was about pink dolls. Like I was just like, I'm like, I can't like it's just not my thing. Like I'm like, I don't know, it didn't do it for me. Like and Tracy had recommended I just wait past the first scene and give it another try. I don't know if you recommended that to me or my sister did, but someone said like try to get past the first scene because it's worth the wait. And I'm just like, I don't know. Like
yeah, I mean, as my advice was just, it's my least favorite out of the top 10, the Best Picture nominees. But I think just to have an idea of, because it was such a cultural phenomenon, I think you should finish it and then kind of.
And it was a musical, so like.
Well, kind of, yeah.
There.
That was another thing too.
There.
I didn't like the music in the opening scene. I wasn't a fan of the opening song either. I thought it was like really corny. I mean, like it was good. It was a good song, but just it wasn't my thing personally. It certainly wasn't Poor Things. Like I like Twisted. I liked the Joker. I like that type of stuff. Like I like dark stuff. So to me, it was just overwhelming.
No, totally get that. One sub points here. Hey, Nerdy Film Girl.
Hey.
Didn't know John was joining. That's awesome. Hello to everyone else.
Hi.
Yes.
What up?
Let's see. This movie is what Barbie could have done if they had let Barbie be less self-involved.
Big take.
Yes. Sup, party people? Hey, KB.
Hey,
Had to check in. Yeah. And say hey to the cool panel. Hey, Andrea. Brock says, I found it interesting that the concept of a baby's brain in a fully grown adult body fully and clearly represents the mentality most young people have about sex.
That is like the comment of the night. That is so spot on. Very well said.
Yeah.
No, like all these like Zoomers are like no sex in movies. They like are so offended by it, and I'm like,
I know.
Just couldn't. I don't get it.
Andrew, do you know about this?
No, who's a Zoomer? Are we Zooming right now? Is this
no like, young? Like Gen Z, like
is that what they're called, Zoomers?
Yeah,
so they don't like sex in movies?
It's like a whole thing. I mean,
Yeah.
I've deleted Twitter off my homepage, but like when I was on Twitter a little bit more a couple months ago, like this is just something that they're making waves about it. I mean, I guess
what's the argument? Like what's the point
they
of
just find it doesn't add anything, which is such a crazy blanket statement to make because like obviously it's such a case by case basis. So for you to just say like, I don't know, it's just weird. They have like these delicate sensibilities about like sex in movies.
I think the sex in this movie added because going back to what I was saying in the beginning, for me personally, again, this might be a projection, but I felt like one of the biggest themes was about sex and pointing out without really providing like a clear, definitive answer if it's better to indulge in sexual freedom or to reserve it. It really didn't make the answer clear. And I feel like to a degree, there were little hints of like evidence for both. And the sex over and over, after a while, it kind of made you get tired of it. Like you're like, I've seen enough of the sex, but to me, that's kind of like artistically representing perhaps perhaps just overindulging in sex. What's the word that they use a lot for people who like overindulge in food, overindulge in sex? Like they use a lot in religious
compulsive.
context. Hedonism.
Oh,
Like to have,
Hedonism,
to have hedonistic tendencies could be like a never-ending pit into hell. So for me, the sex really did add to it, because it was like, oh, I'm tired of seeing, her nipples like 100 times, and maybe there's a point for that, I don't know. That's just the way I interpreted it, but
No, definitely.
That's some deep shit.
And I
did
think
they have
that,
a
like,
sex? Oh, sorry. Go
so
ahead.
no, you can go. No, you go.
Did they have any sex scenes in Barbie?
No.
I'm just kidding.
No.
No, that's very much like the PG version of this.
Yeah.
Although
With a lot less-
you can make the case they objectified men a lot more than they did women in that movie, but that's another argument for another time.
Yeah, Barbie.
That
I
is
mean,
true.
Barbie is like, it's so much less subtle than this. I feel like, because they're like, Barbie does what it does, and then like at the end, like America Ferrera just kind of like has her whole monologue, which is like the whole thesis of the movie. And she basically like, I mean, unless you have to see it to know what I'm saying here, but basically she just kind of goes on this huge monologue where she kind of just explains the troubles that women go through today, and it's like so on the nose, like just in your face. And I mean, it's a good monologue. It's like nothing she's saying is like incorrect, but it's like it's just so like not subtle.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not trying to be either, but it's like, I don't know. I much preferred like this movie's approach to those sort of similar themes.
Yeah.
This one makes you think a little more. Barbie's like, okay, this is what it's about. You don't have to think anymore. Like, we did that for you. Like, it's fine.
Yeah, Barbie makes jokes in a whole different way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does. We got greetings from San Francisco, the time scales.
Good God. What's up?
Thank you for joining us today. I'm just
3 hours behind us.
Tiana.
Yes. Yeah, we have Tiana
East
here.
Coast folks.
Hey.
Tiana, thanks so much for joining us. And D. Marcel.
Hey, what's good?
Hello.
D. Marcel.
Prom
All the way from across the pond.
Happening.
Prom L. Hello.
Oh, this is so cool.
We got hoop in hands.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
How's it going? Cool. I think we're pretty much caught up here.
Cool. Lots of comments. Thanks for all these chats.
There's definitely like more comments coming in. Oh, Tim Morell's here. We gotta say hi to him.
What's up, Tim?
Hey,
How's
Tim.
it going?
Love to see the crowd. It's building.
Yes. Yeah, that's really some great points. So I wanted to bring up something that I learned today, actually. So this film was based off of a book, and the book actually does everything from everyone else's perspectives, kind of. So you don't really actually get Bella's perspective, but that's just the way it was written. I don't think you necessarily don't identify with her as a character, but I think that's just how it was. And I love how it is like 100% from her perspective in this. And I think to what you were saying, Andrea, because actually I wanted to piggyback off of that real quick about the sex in the film. And I think that like for women, and maybe men probably too, I would say it's not just one gender. But I would say like there are kind of like milestones of growth, and you learn a lot about yourself with your experiences. And I think that that's why none of the sex in the movie seemed to be like gratuitous. Like I think like it was all like part of her learning about who she is and what she wants. And
yeah, but the word for that, like when people go through these milestones in life, I forget what the term is, but yeah, you
growth stages.
Growth stages. Yeah, it's like doing a walkabout
Something
when
like
you reach
yeah.
a certain
And
age.
we could probably, like, not to get off track, we could probably get more to this later. But what I found super interesting, I'm really bad with names. So the guy that she ended up like marrying at the end, the guy who was kind of waiting for her naively.
Yes.
And
I only know his real name, which is Rami Youssef. So Rami. I guess his name is Max in that. Yeah.
Yeah, his name's Max in the movie.
Max. Oh, interesting. I still can't really figure out what he was like symbolizing, because it was almost like he was this great guy who was loyal and by her side no matter what, but he almost seemed like kind of numb, like a ghost, like he didn't have much. Like for me, like that's the way I interpret it, and I don't really quite understand like what that was. I feel like whoever created, the film was trying to say something about it, about something, and I just like, it never clicked with me what that was. I don't know if anybody else had any ideas about that.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
I think it was a neat way. I think it was neat.
Yeah.
For that. I think that was a neat way to kind of end it rather than what it could have been.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you mean the guy, Christopher Abbott's character, who's like trying to do something bad
Alfie?
to her? Yeah. Is that what his name is in the movie?
Mm-hmm.
It was the guy.
He traps her in a mansion.
Yeah.
Not that guy.
I'm
the
talking
guy.
Max, the guy from the beginning who's like doing her data and stuff.
Yeah, he's like the assistant or whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was just interesting.
In a really like simple way that I've heard that explained is like, it's just trying to show the opposite of Duncan's admiration or infatuation with her, which is very shallow, and his because simping. He saw her like kind of as this like weirdo from the beginning, that it's supposed to be like him kind of like loving her for who she is, I guess, and then like letting her do her own exploration and coming back. But
such a simp.
But then
just being goofy.
If that's the case, then isn't it the difference between vanity and non-vanity, or whatever the other opposite of vanity would be?
Yeah.
Even though all that is true, there was still just something about him that he possessed all those wonderful characteristics of like letting her be free, but there's just something about him that seemed like emotionless at the same time, and like that really confused me, because I'm like, again, it's like kind of playing with this duality of like, well, here's the good side of this, but here's the bad side of this. I don't know. There's something weird about him. Yeah.
Cool how it makes us feel uneasy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like it's hard. Yeah, it's like you want to say compared to like Duncan, Mark Ruffalo's character, like he's obviously the better choice, but I don't know. He seemed it's I don't know. It's hard to kind of quantify like in words like what his deal was. Like he's definitely, I don't know. Like you don't really get a sense for like what he really likes about her, right? I mean, like he just kind of likes her because she's like, I don't know, she's very interesting to him, and he kind of puts her on a pedestal a little bit, and like he's willing to like let her go on her little adventure and stuff as long as she comes back and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, and I want to bring this. Yeah, you can expand on that if you want to, John.
But I did look at it. I looked at it the same way with Tim. Actually, Brock and Tim both have good points here. I'm sure we are all familiar with the culture war that occurs online, right? So, the whole men versus women thing, it's tired at this point, but it continues to happen, and it drives clicks and all that garbage. But nevertheless, you have the idea of, and the Chad is the big thing, right? It's like, oh, she'll mess with Chad, and she'll mess with Romeo, and she'll mess with Tyrone and all of that. And then they'll be there at the end, the nice guys finish last type moniker that they like to put out there. And that's when you'll have to clean up all of her stuff, and you'll be there because, the only word to really say it is simp, because that's the most popular word today. Like it's this, you're simp. Whereas Chad, Duncan, is, Brock just put it there, exciting. Like, think about what they do, right? They go on trips. It's lavish. They're doing stuff all the time. It's top tier. I like it. It's like, you're really into it. Whereas Max doesn't provide that kind of excitement. There's nowhere. Andre, like you just said, like he's kind of just stone faced almost a little bit. Like, I'm here. I'll be here to take care of you. And it's
like, is there a middle guy? Like, is there a guy like in the middle of this? Like a little bit exciting.
Exactly. Two extremes.
It's like neither one's very desirable at the end of the day.
Yeah. And that was a huge theme in the film for me, was just like pointing out two extremes and making it confusing as to understand which was the more desirable option,
Yeah, Max is like the safe choice who's like very upfront, like what you see is what you get. Duncan is like I said earlier, he's like got this facade of like this very confident man, but like as soon as she like leaves him, he's like just falls apart. So he, like Max is he's he's like a safer bet because you can sort of trust him a little more. He's going to be straight with you, and Duncan's like not that at all. So sort of just kind of figuring out which one is better.
Yeah.
My only thing is Max is Duncan is way more of a realistic thing you'll find than Max in today's day and age.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that like after especially she meets the original husband who's so evil, and I think she finds such kindness in Max that I think she has she's so much in a short amount of time, like you guys said. She's matured in such a short amount of time. She's been exposed to so much, and I think like if he's willing, like I think she gets that, like he understands she's still growing as a person. I think she's kind of like, okay, well, we're friends, and like we're starting there. Like he knows my background really well. I think that like if he kind of like lets me do my own thing, and like we're still kind to each other, because she does value kindness. Like I don't think she's ever tried to be mean. She's really like kind of like brutally truthful, and like kind of doesn't have a sense of cues. Yeah, but I think she's still trying to not be like a shitty person like her. That was, I think, a huge awakening for her. So I think that has a lot to do with why she felt comfortable with Max.
Learning the mistakes of all these men.
Like she meets all these different people and takes something away from each experience throughout it.
What we all hope to do, I guess.
Yeah, and Max literally knows her better than anyone because his whole job was to just like study her and like write everything down. So like, he literally knows her better than anyone else. Like I'm sure there's like a comfort there for her.
It almost represents like the studious, like watching creeper kind of guy, or the boisterous. There's so many names for it nowadays.
It's literally both ends of the spectrum.
But which one is like, who do you take?
I mean, you gotta go with Max.
I have a hot take on the nice guy, like the nice guy type. I think sometimes they're more manipulative than the bad guy in some ways, because like I feel like sometimes the bad guy will like come out and be like, I'm just trying to fuck, like, and sometimes the nice guy will be like, I'm here, you can cry on my shoulder, but I'm secretly just trying to fuck, like, you know what I mean? Like so there's like something more respectful about.
They both have their ways of like getting what they want from her.
Yeah, it's like the nice guy isn't attractive enough to play that game, but he's playing he's playing the game in a different way. He's playing I'm probably gonna piss people off by saying all that. I apologize. Not every nice guy is like that. It's just that there's certain ones that
cheers to the culture war.
Yeah.
Got her riled up. The nice guys are always like, I'm a nice guy.
The nice guys who are like, they feel entitled because they're like, I'm a nice guy. Like, why? You know what I mean? So it's like they kind of come full circle and become like not a nice guy because they're like, they almost feel like they're like, well, why won't you?
That's what it is. I personally had experiences in my life of guys that were like, you just went through a breakup, like you can cry on my shoulder, like anything. Can I sleep over tomorrow? Like you know what I mean? So it's like it's like that's not so nice either. That's not so nice.
They're trying to play an angle, Yeah.
They're doing. So I'm sorry, I take back my statement. Nice guys aren't bad. I'm talking about nice guys, like you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's so many different like kinds, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
Like, they were ones who like truly have good intentions, and I feel like Max is kind of in that area where he really is just like, yeah, like whatever, like if she comes back, like that's cool, like we'll get married, but if not, like that's your choice, that's your journey, and he'll respect it either way. That's sort of the impression I get. I need to finish the movie actually again for the second time. I was only able to finish the first hour and a half. So
think about the reaction that both Duncan and Max have when she tells Duncan that she made all this money because she worked at the whorehouse. And then when she tells Max, he's fine. He's like, okay, well, like you did that. That's fine. I feel like a lot of like, quote unquote, like super nice guys would be like, oh, you are like the worst. You're a slut. You're a whore. Yeah. Like, know. So I think that he's not necessarily that like, quote unquote, scary nice guy.
No, he's not that at all. He's absolutely not that. He's something else. Like, I don't know what he is.
He literally, they have the scene at the end where they're walking together and she's like, you understand I've like been a whore for money. Like many. I think he says like cocks inside me or something, and he's like, yeah, no, it's cool. And then Duncan's reaction is like Duncan's reaction when they're in Lisbon, I think, still before they even get on the ship, and she like lets some dude like go down on her or whatever, and he's like, he finds out, and he's like, just so he's like, oh, this is like, that's the start of it. He's like, this is not, because she starts to become more like free, I guess, is the way.
I mean, to be
What
fair,
have I created?
I mean, I get it. I wouldn't be thrilled either, but like, it's, and then I don't know. It just kind of spirals from there, though, where she's just like, I'm just fucking gonna do whatever I want.
Like none of them.
She's not mentally,
But none of them are like. Neither one of them is Alfie, right? Alfie is the super violent, super aggressive.
Yeah,
you find out the reason why.
Yeah,
and you're like, all right, well, that's super extreme. Like you don't ever want to go that far.
Duncan would actually be kind of in the middle of the spectrum, maybe a little.
In the case of this, yeah,
with Alfie on the very end and Max sort of at the other side. Duncan's probably a little closer to Alfie than he is to Max, but yeah.
Let's not forget Duncan becomes institutionalized. He was down at that.
He does.
So, like,
what a
she
journey.
really fucked him up.
I also find it interesting that she's literally a child in an adult's body, and I think that was done on purpose as well, because I actually found her incredibly relatable. Like, I actually think adults are still learning a lot of these lessons that a child in an adult body is learning, and I think there was something to be said about that. Like, I think there was an intentional point behind that. Like, I feel like, oh, like a lot of these things that she's naively learning, I think I learned some of these things like last year too, So
the way she plays it is so fascinating to watch, where she's kind of and they talked about that a little bit. I watched the Variety, like Actors on Actors interviews, where she kind of explains how she broke down the process of playing that character. It was really interesting. I would suggest checking those out.
Hell yes.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up too, because like one of the controversies of this movie, or for people that don't, they don't like it because they feel that it should have been directed and written by a woman. And I feel like Emma Stone is a smart enough actress who has created a bond and a safe space with Yorgos, where she took, and also the book, by the way, was written by a man. It's not like this was an original material written by a woman.
92 or something.
And I don't necessarily feel in this case that it's like not truthful to her story because it was directed and written by a man. I just don't find that at all. And I think Yorgos is very sensitive to women. I think we've seen it in The Favorite and among other movies he's directed.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like a weird thing to me.
It's not creepy to direct this. And
no,
I love what's his name, John Waters, and I don't think he's that creepy on set, but I think that Yorgos is a lot more professional, and Emma Stone never felt like she was.
No, there's a close.
It's like almost like offensive to Emma Stone to imply that like she's not smart enough to like figure out that this is like it. And I think the idea that a man can't make a story about a woman and have there be like truth in it is kind of silly too. Like it's been done. Happens all the time. There's a lot of
7 decades, right? Or like 10
a lot of
decades.
examples we could look at in the history of like film where like a man has like written a story, and conversely, a lot of movies written by women about men. So it's like, I think that's just such a narrow-minded way of like approaching the material. I mean, obviously, I just think you shouldn't rule anything out like just because of who made it. It's actually kind of against the idea that you're kind of proposing there, where it's like it's actually a little more, it's kind of it's just offensive, I think.
So is the argument, because I never heard of this, is the controversy people more saying a man shouldn't have directed this because of all the nudity is creepy, or are they saying just to present something from a female perspective isn't right? Because how could you know what a female perspective is?
Exactly. That's sort of people's stance. They're also offended by the fact just that it's like on its base level, ignore all the other stuff. They're like, oh, it's about the brain of an infant in the body of a adult, and then she's having sex, and they're like, okay, that's fucked up. And they don't have like media literacy skills, and they don't understand that like there's a point to that, and it's not just because like, oh, wouldn't that be fucking weird if we just did that? And it's like that's all they need to hear, and then they're like, oh, this is weird. You're weird for liking this, and it's like, well, hang on, did you watch the movie? Like,
short-sighted.
Yeah,
it's also kind of it's kind of interesting. Some of the I might be getting into like territory I shouldn't talk about, but it's interesting how there's like all these paradoxes and like arguments today, because it's like, how could there be a film created a man thinking in a woman's perspective, but then it's like gender's fluid? It's like, which one is it?
That's
like,
a great point too. It's like that's an amazing point. Yeah, it's
gender
like, well,
fluidity is okay here, but not in a film.
It's
like,
just strange to me.
I'm gonna drink.
Yes, John. No, John, I think John wanted to make a point for sure, and I'd love to hear that one.
That is a good point, and we don't have to expand
we
upon
don't
it.
have to
I'm not
talk
ranting
about
on
it.
your
It's
channel.
just-
You weren't. No. It didn't have
Yeah.
to be about that. I just felt like I thought you might have wanted to say something, so I didn't.
Oh
want
no,
you to.
there's no way I'm gonna go on a rant on your channel. no way.
No,
This is a Disney movie. We need to not forget that.
Yeah,
It's okay.
I will say this. Look at the way Greta wrote male characters, and she wrote them to be comedic because she wanted to play it safe. And Greta is a great director, writer, but she wanted to play it safe. And so the male characters came out comedic, and they came out so comedic that the best characters in the movie are Ken specifically, because everybody felt comfortable with what was going on. He was an idiot, so it's like, oh, we feel comfortable with that.
Yeah, it's okay. He's like the butt of the joke.
Yeah.
Like, it's fine.
Whereas, like, you don't feel comfortable with any of these guys in this movie, and that's good. You shouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This movie pulls no punches. Like, it's
What
a
did they
real-
do for women with that?
Also, you did say before that the book was written not in her perspective, but observing her
Right.
perspective. So that would be natural to his experience then,
Yeah, and this is definitely what we're talking about, Tim, because Yorgos and Emma were creative partners on this. It had the perspective of both sexes. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's like to say that it's like to entirely discredit Emma's like entire ability to discern whether something is good, ill-intentioned or good intentioned. Like anyone who makes that case is a silly goose, in my opinion.
And she's his muse. She's like beyond his muse. Like they know each other like best friends.
They're his next movie, she's going to be in it. Like they're fully. They had a great working relationship, as far as I'm.
And that's rare when somebody can be like best friends with an older person, and it's not sexual, but it's professional, but it's about sex. It's like artistic people like doing it right.
Yeah, it's entirely what it should be, and it's not weird. Like I can understand on its surface level watching this and be like, oh, this is kind of weird, but it's supposed to be, and it's supposed to make you think, and that's sort of.
I hope people aren't like turned off.
I also think too, there's a line in the movie that saves a lot of people's arguing about this, and it's like Willem Dafoe explains that her brain is progressing much faster than an average human because she's in an adult body. So that's why we see her go from a little baby to a fully mature woman by the end of the movie in a span of a very short amount of time. So for a lot of the sex stuff, she is, I'd say most if not all, she's in at least that.
When it turns color.
Yeah. Puberty
So
stage.
she spent. It's like a cat. Like it's in its teenage phase, and it's in its middle age. But it's like it's just a little thing.
Right.
It's kind of a allegory for decompression. When you go into the water and then you come up way too fast, and all of a sudden, like things are like really coming at you, and it's big thing that happened in Godzilla -1. The whole thing of decompression. It's things happen so quickly for her. Like, for example, to even take it away from the sex portion, remember when she gives the money away and then she's like so distraught when she finds out, like how can people do this? Like, how can, and it's just like, and as you're watching it, like, oh, well, there goes your money. Like,
Yep.
Yeah, she's learning about like class divide, and like how she realizes like, oh, this whole time like I've had all this nice stuff, and then there's people who have nothing. Like it's really like encompasses an entire person's whole like life in such a short amount of time, and like you just see her like she's growing the whole movie. She's learning, and you know, it's meant to sort of make you have all those same reactions that she's having.
It's also like obviously interesting that they chose his name was God for her father, creator, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah.
Because again, to like your guys' point about it's almost like she lived a whole life. Well, it's almost like it's like an experiment of God. Like that's the life, and it's God's experiment.
Well, that's where like the Frankenstein parallels come in. Like I'm pretty sure this is. I haven't read the book and I don't know a ton about it, but I believe like that was a huge. I mean, there's obvious like visual, like the whole when she's getting she's got her head in like the thing and they're doing the whole like that whole scene is very like evocative of Frankenstein.
I like to call it modern Prometheus.
Fair.
I also found it super interesting that she was like at many times really fascinated by like violence, and like I think that's also pointing out something about humanity. She said a hilarious line. She said, "They said I would get in trouble," or I'm paraphrasing it, but she said something like, "They said I would get in trouble if I went out, and that wasn't the case. All I found was sugar and violence." like you know, just like comparing sugar and violence. Like, again, like what I was saying before, it's kind of like, yes, she's a child, but as adults, we also have those impulses of like, I kind of like to watch that car crash. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we don't like to admit it, but there is a pull towards like being interested in violence. Like it's part of being human.
It's like why we watch horror movies and stuff.
Yeah.
But like at that point in the movie, she's not fully developed yet. So she's like, doesn't understand, like in the scene in the early when she's like stabbing the corpse with the knife like over and over again. Like she doesn't understand that that's not you're not supposed to do that. Like she's just so, and then she like as she grows becomes smarter, like, and then she sees all the poor people in where are they at that is that Athens where in that scene. It's during the cruise like portion where she's trying to give money away to all those people. Yeah, I mean, then that's sort of her coming full circle with that, where she's like, oh, like she's like growing, she's discovering empathy and like stuff like that, like all these different traits that we all have, and like we're watching her kind of develop them in real time.
Yeah,
and I don't think it's just because they're trying to keep it in within the length of a movie. It has more purpose than
exactly.
But it's not just to fit it in an hour and a half.
Yes, I wanted to bring this up. Blah, blah, blah. Well, this is hilarious. You are overthinking this, Tim. This is something that Max would probably say. I didn't think of the baby thing as I was watching because it would have a hard time growing to full size just to fit inside her skull. I remember thinking that.
I saw an illustration in one part of the movie, and the brain was so small in that brain. I'm like, what's
Yes, that's overthinking, but it's okay.
Yeah, I wasn't so much thinking about like the size of the brain, so much as the fact that it was a child's brain, and like and then she's doing things like a child.
Maybe it actually grew muscle and like just filled the whole size of the skull.
Yeah,
that's neither here nor there.
Yes, Brock says I found it interesting that her God created her, but didn't feel a need to educate her. He let her educate herself, kind of like how the real God treats all of us.
Wow.
Like the free will thing.
Really well said. Yeah. No, he doesn't really. That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. He really doesn't like take it upon himself to be like, don't like masturbate at the dinner table. Like it's like she just kind of has to figure this shit out, and then that's sort of what the movie is.
Yeah, he just sits back and burps.
Yeah, he just burps. Yeah.
What was that? What he was burping these like little globes? Like what was that all about?
It's a different world there.
I didn't. So many people have been like, "What was that about? Like, what was that?" I didn't know what that was. Really, yeah. And it's like it to me, it's just one of those little eccentricities that Yorgos puts in there.
Kafka-esque.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's all kinds of weird shit. Like the chicken dog, and the carriage is like a steampunk carriage with the head of a horse attached, and Godwin himself is like all patchwork. Like he's kind of looks like Frankenstein. He talks about all the weird shit that's happened to him. So I just kind of chalk that up as like a result of one of his some kind of procedure he had done or something, you know. It didn't really it didn't need that much kind of, you know, deep dive or anything for me, at least.
That's weird stuff.
Well, they're calling Yorgos Lanthimos as one of the creators of this new Raven film. We get them every decade or every couple of decades, and it's the weird Greek.
The Greek weird wave.
Greek weird wave, yeah. So there's, I guess, him, and then he's kind of starting a trend with other Greek directors, which are kind of following suits, and they're kind of, you know, you get these once in a while in film, but it is that kind of surrealistic performance type of filmmaking.
Kind of like all the music video directors turned auteurs that we got the past 30 years.
I'm sorry about that. There was one other comment I wanted to bring up. Oh yes, is this her friend that she meets in the brothel, Felicity?
No, I think that's Margaret Qualley's character, where they don't think she's coming back, so they make another one.
Oh yeah, that's the new one. That's the one where she makes an experiment, and she goes she develops a lot slower. That's yeah.
What? Yeah, that's a good. You know, I was thinking about that. I was going to mention it at some point. I don't know that I know what that was supposed to like signify. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Of her developing slowly?
Just what? Yeah, like what was the point? Like what was Yorgos, I guess, trying to say, like with her? Like where they felt the need to make another one, like Max and Godwin just kind of did it again because they didn't think she was coming back. I don't know.
That one could have all sorts of different meanings depending on which.
Nothing like really deep comes at the moment. Maybe I've only seen this film once, so maybe I'll go see it again if it's still in theaters anywhere.
Yeah, same.
But like the only thing that comes to mind now is like it's just another one of God's creations. Like that's the only thing that comes to my mind, but I don't have anything else to say, you know?
Maybe he's, you know, trying to, I don't know, get another, like just trying to replace her. Like the way someone would, like, you know, another, like a girlfriend or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, or the thing where sometimes grief. You ever see like the things with like parents where it's like sometimes grief will have like another child out of grief.
Oh,
yeah, that can be something as well.
Yeah.
No, for sure. From Godwin's perspective, where he's like missing her and, you know, wanting to fill that void. I guess. Yeah. It might not. It might be as simple as that. Yeah.
I don't remember the detail of this, but did they, with her, was she put into, was it the same situation, or was it a random baby brain put into her body? Like it wasn't her own baby.
Maybe.
I'm wondering if that played a part in her mentally.
They did it cheap. They did it fast.
Yeah. Because it would have the same DNA essentially. If you know, with Emma Stone's character, it's the same DNA being put into herself. So maybe that's why she was able to progress so quickly. But maybe with this one, it was just a random baby brain and a random woman's body. Like that might be the key to not.
An abomination.
That's a good point. I haven't thought about that. Yeah, the fact that she is basically, it's kind of crazy conceptually, like. It's her baby's brain inside of like her body. That wasn't the case with the second one, Felicity, I think. So I'm sure that kind of had like that probably made a difference where they're obviously going to be more compatible because they're like almost the same person at that point.
It's like a clone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, Tim says there were religious parallels in the film. Yeah. And everyone in the chat is kind of the second Bella, God is never satisfied, all this stuff. Because
that's deep.
Not that like the God or whatever is not satisfied, but like Godwin is not. I mean, he was a lonely guy. He finally had a daughter, and I think he did treat her like a daughter for sure. So that was probably.
Are we allowed to talk about that question?
Oh.
That is a really interesting question.
Better to learn sex.
Yeah.
Holy.
I'm assuming they're talking about from the perspective of should God had told her about sex ahead of time, or should she have just gone out like she did?
Or that in life.
There's a lot to unpack there for sure.
Yeah, that might be a too loaded question, but holy moly.
It's better to teach it, though.
Well, she should have, like, Godwin doesn't teach her shit. Like, she should have at least something. Like, she doesn't know that it's not okay to, like, start touching her like maid or whatever. Like, after she's discovering what masturbation is, and she's like, "Oh, this is great! Like, I got to show you," and she starts like trying to do it to the maid, and it's like she has no clue that this is not okay, and he has not taken it upon himself. And that might have to do with the fact that he's a guy and he doesn't feel comfortable teaching her because, like, normally, ideally, like the mother would do that. So maybe there's something to that as well, where he's like, "I don't feel comfortable teaching you that stuff."
But then I wonder if I don't know.
There's a lot to unpack there. Absolutely.
I was gonna quickly say I could relate to that. What you said. I was raised by a single dad, and when like puberty came, he was so awkward. Like he was like, "Hey, if you ever like get your period," like, and I'm like, "Don't talk to me. Like, leave me the hell alone."
I can't even imagine. That's.
But I wasn't trained by anybody though.
What's that?
I wasn't talked to about it by anybody.
Oh,
and so I wonder.
Yeah, nobody told me shit either. Like, we just kind of learned it from like movies and stuff, and just like Friends. Like, that's kind of how you learn it, really. Like, I feel like the worst place to learn it. The idea of the talk is like not really a thing. Like, at least in my experience, like I don't really know. Nobody's like, I feel like it's just a thing you see in movies where they're like, "All right, son, I'm going to teach you about this and that."
Some people have done it.
Yeah, maybe in more like
looking goofy.
Maybe in more classical, like traditional households, but yeah, no, that wasn't really a thing for me either.
Oh man.
But maybe like we were saying.
Oh, sorry. This is what you were saying. Yeah, I think you are right. At the end of the day, it is better to be taught. But I think maybe one of the factors at play too is because her brain like grows so rapidly. Maybe he can't even figure out when the right time is. So
that's a good point too. Yeah, where he's like, because maybe he didn't foresee her becoming as smart as she does so quickly. So by the time she is having these like urges, I guess she's like already acting on them because it's literally happening like that quickly. That's a good point too, Tracy.
Or again, like we were saying before, if he really is supposed to be representative of God, again, God gives humans free will, so it would it would kind of take away.
He kind of just he brings her into the world, and he's just like,
well, he's super chill. Like he's
like you're gonna figure it out, or you won't, and I don't really care either way. Like he doesn't do much there. He doesn't do much either way. Like he doesn't play a big part in that.
Pretty in his chair.
Yeah.
So I think, as we move on into the film, and she progresses and she learns and, she's kind of sick of Duncan's shit and she realizes he's not all that he's cracked up to be. And, maybe doesn't have the best. I think people actually respond to her really well on the boat. She doesn't do what is, socially normal as far as her behavior goes. And I think that when we get towards the third act, there's a lot going on that can be unwrapped there before we kind of give her all our final thoughts. So I'd love to kind of get into the third act because a lot happens. She realizes that she did the wrong thing by getting rid of Duncan's money. And she realizes like, oh, this thing that I love to do, which is have sex, I can make money at that, and goes to a brothel and she presents him with money and she's like, what's wrong? Like, here's all this money. And he's like, he can't believe she did that. That whole, I feel like what we were talking about earlier, how there's not specific messaging in the movie. It brings up perspectives, both pro and cons of what's going on. And it doesn't tell you what you think you should think. It just kind of says, like, have the conversation. And like, because she did have a lot of self-discovery. She loves it, then she doesn't really like it so much anymore. And she does make a friend and they kind of have a bond. But she learns a lot in that perspective. She something she thought that was just so grand and amazing, and she's realizing that it's not necessarily that way with everyone. And she even has like a line in the film that says, like, when she's talking to the madam, she says, I believe that everyone would be happier if we could just choose who we have sex with here. And she's like, well, that's not how a brothel works. So
Yeah.
So there's like a lot to unpack in that last act from the brothel to the end. I'd love to hear like your thoughts on why that was kind of like a prevalent thing to happen to her as a character. I don't think she's necessarily wrong for trying that out, because I think anyone with her perspective would absolutely be like, oh, this gets me more money, this helps Duncan, this helps like this, all this stuff. So what do you guys think about the third act?
For me, that was like pointing out again what I was saying earlier. And if we're considering her character to be like a lifespan, I feel like that's one of the lessons in life is like you discover what sex is. It's amazing. But I can't speak for everybody. You know what I mean? Like everybody has their own thing. People do all kinds of things, poly, whatnot, But from my personal experience and from a lot of my friends' personal experience, there eventually reaches a point where like too much indulgence in sex starts to feel meaningless after a while. Like watching too much porn, sleeping around with too much people, like it could start to feel meaningless and kind of empty after a while. So to me, like that's what that scene was trying to say. I could be wrong. I don't know. But just like little hints, like again, in the beginning, she seemed like really excited, and it felt very freeing for her to be able to make money doing this. And then as the viewer, you kind of felt it too. You're like, oh yeah, you're like, she can make money doing this. But then it was something about that older woman's character, like the woman running the brothel. At first, she also seemed like this like wise, like sage, like gonna take her to the right place. But then at one scene, she was kind of like a snake, like she like bit her ear, like something weird like that. So that's, to me, that was like, okay, this is deception. Like she's like a figure of deception. Like she seemed like she was going to lead you to the right place, but there's something in here that is going to lead you to an empty road,
Sounds biblical.
Yeah.
Ooh, we got 5 memberships.
Oh, we have to acknowledge this.
Nice.
Thank you so much, Velvet Elvis. That's very kind of
Nice,
you.
Velvet.
Velvet Elvis.
You're the man.
Yes, thank you very much.
Holla. What were you saying, John?
I'm gonna go in a different direction. Because you were absolutely right about the way it starts to like come down from the sex aspect. I also think in that come down, because she's introduced to socialism by like that third act, and so now you have this whole thing about property, right? And the brothel, after she says that line, it's the idea of like, man, like, well, I'm not really property, but technically you are of the brothel. And there's like all these other things that start to come into play. And then obviously when the general comes in, he acts like I've been on you, right? Like that's a whole thing that comes on to. And so you have that. And then it's like, you can feel the satire of where it's coming from, but you could also see where the message is. And there's a lot there that I think works. And I think that's where it starts to make you question like, all right, well, what is the best way when it comes to yourself, personal property, your thoughts, what should be shared, what shouldn't be shared? Is this the correct thing to do? Like that's where it starts to dive into those things. I think that's why I said it ends up kind of neat with the whole thing of her marrying Max at the end. But it's there's some good themes, and I think a lot of those themes show themselves because it's been building up to that for like the first 2 acts.
So many themes to explore, and we can't forget this. Oh my God!
Velvet Elvis, you are just too kind.
Hey,
thank you.
Thank you.
A great time. Gotta go panel. I can't wait to see you guys again. Thank you very much.
Appreciate you, Velvet. Yeah, and how about you, Mark?
No, but those were really solid points, John. Did you want to chime in there, Mark?
Yeah, really well said by the two of you. I find it really fascinating, like Duncan's reaction to the whole thing, where it's like he just is so offended at the fact that she would do this, and like he really just wants her to be like all for him. You can look at that and take something away from that as well. Doesn't she start to have like a relationship with another girl? Yeah. Yeah, she starts hanging out with like a girl a little bit.
Tonette.
Can't remember her name. Yeah. And then she I think she might even like learn French. I need to finish the back half for the second time because there's things that I'm forgetting. But no, she like develops this relationship with her, and it's definitely sort of like the culmination of her arc of her desire to just express herself, sexually and stuff, and how she's just fine with doing it, and it doesn't have to mean a ton, and it's just interesting to see how everybody else reacts to it. Is what's interesting to me, like how Max doesn't care and Duncan's very affected by it, and the small lady who like owns the brothel is like sort of just trying to convince her to do it because it's beneficial for her, and it's interesting to see how everyone's sort of playing their own angle, and like how it's her body, but like they want to kind of have their say in it. And then when you get to the Christopher Abbott character, Alfie, he's immediately like, yeah, you are actually my property, so you need to come back home with me now. And it's interesting because I didn't expect her to like go along with it. And I don't know. I'm not sure like why she does it. Maybe because she feels like she needs to. What do you guys think about that? Like, why does she go back with him, in your guys' opinion?
As a female, I would assume that she thinks like, well, she's got to at least see what this is like. If I or my mom was so into this person, and like I feel like she might think like, oh, he might not be that bad, and maybe there's a relationship there. Well, like we as the audience know that he's probably the reason why she killed herself to begin with. Yeah. Right. Yep. She didn't want to have she doesn't want to have his kid. So, but she doesn't know that. But we as the audience kind of can infer that. So there's something interesting there too.
Yeah, you think about that.
I took it as like her like wanting to kind of go in the belly of the beast, like to like find out her roots, like sort of thing. That's kind of how I interpret.
That's a really good insight. Yeah, not just learn even more. Because the whole movie, she's been kind of like, let's just see what happens. Like, let's see where this goes. And she's not really content to kind of settle with any one place or person. So I think she's like, all right, well, Max will probably wait for me no matter what. So like, let's go see what this is all about. And then, kind of maybe get some closure too in the process.
It's also really
the line.
Sorry.
No, it's just he says the line to that he was married. You remember, like doesn't he mistake her for Victoria? And this like says like, hey, like we were married beforehand, basically. So
yeah. Well, he doesn't know that. I don't think he knows.
I don't think he knew either
that it's the kid.
But I think she was like, well, why is he like? Because at that point she's really developed, and so I think at that point she's kind of like, let me. I think you're right. Like I think the whole thing of let me go find out who I am going into the belly of the beast. I think that's correct.
Yeah, that does sound right.
For some reason, this came to mind too. You notice how she kept ending up in a trapped situation wherever she went. Like it was like no matter where she went, she was trapped. And maybe she had to go into the belly of the beast in order to break the cycle. Like I feel like that's a human thing. Like I feel like that's something all human beings like go through. I can experience that for myself. Like I personally have found myself like repeating themes. I'm like, why don't I have money? Like I'll play Monopoly and I won't have money in there either. Like I'll play like the board game Monopoly, like wherever I go. I'm like, I don't have money anywhere. Like I have to be an Uber driver in Monopoly. Like what the fuck? I had to do some deep diving to like break that cycle, like to get financial stability. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's kind of like a human theme that perhaps God, if there's a God, forces us to go through, like a self-discovery thing, Yeah,
whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah.
Just want to shout out real quick. Matt has joined us. He has a great channel. I know he does not like this movie, so it's really nice that he showed up. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm not the biggest fan of Yorgos Lanthimos. He's a hit or miss for me personally. However, I love Emma Stone. Well, happy to have
that's
you.
Not a solo take. There's a lot of people who feel that way.
I agree with his second comment, especially because this is easily my favorite Yorgos movie. But I haven't seen all of them, but I've seen Killing of a Sacred Deer, which is a movie I'll probably never watch again. I've seen God, what's the other? The Lobster, which is more of a little more fun of a movie, but again, probably not one I'll ever found myself drawn to watch again. And this one feels the most distinct stylistically, like as far as the aesthetic and everything. So I think there's a lot, and thematically too. I think there's a lot to be gained from a rewatch of this.
Yeah.
And if you can just get past sort of the, overt sort of things on the surface of like, what is offensive about it, I think you'll actually find that there's a lot that he's trying to say that's actually like, pretty wholesome, if you can believe it.
To be fair, his previous movie was The Favorite, and
that's one I haven't seen.
A lot of people like The Favorite, and so I think a lot of people, if you are a fan of Yorgos, like a lot of people are comparing this to what they like we do that with most like
how does it stack up to their last movie? Yeah.
And so I think a lot of people are stacking it up to The Favorite, and that one was well received by a lot of people, whereas Poor Things is still very much received by a lot of people, but I think because of all the extra stuff that's in it, people are finding reasons to not like it as much as they did.
And I can understand that, but if you're willing to engage with it on a bit of a deeper level, there is something to take away. If you're willing, you're also not wrong if you just don't like it and you're offended by it. Like that's your choice. You don't have to engage with anything that you're not you don't want to engage with. But I just think that you kind of get out what you put in is kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, there's not. You're right. There's nothing wrong with that either. Like sometimes there's just like certain things or themes that trigger people, and it's like, I don't feel like having a nervous breakdown tonight, like from something. So it's like, why force yourself?
Exactly. I mean, and Yorgos's movies are like that. They're very like anxiety inducing, and just sort of are just generally weird, kind of across the board. But like that's sort of what people like about them. So I think there's a lot to be gained from. And I like artsy, however, elevated, whatever word you want to use to describe like movies like that. I don't like to only watch movies like that, but it's nice to watch a movie like that every now and then, and kind of engage with it on a critical level.
Yeah, I just want to bring this up to what you were saying. That's an interesting perspective of breaking the cycle of being trapped. And then Brock said she only had the illusion of freedom. It definitely is. Wow. Her initial, like, she wasn't allowed to leave the premises. And then Duncan sweeps her away. And then she can't really, like, leave the boat. And she's kind of trapped with him no matter where they go. And then she does break free, but then she winds up in the brothel and she's trapped there at a certain point. And I think she does kind of find the best of both worlds. I think with Willem Dafoe's character, I think he wants her to enjoy life. And I think without him being in the whole spectrum of everything that happens towards the end, it could have gone a little more sourly. But the fact that he was like, welcome home, you can have, your best friend from the brothel join. And like, you can kind of just figure things out still. Like that kind of was like a really great happy ending. And it's funny that you brought up Disney did under an umbrella produce it. We don't think they actually knew what was happening, but people are joking that Bella is now like the new Disney princess.
Yikes!
Yeah, Sanctions it had to debut on Disney Plus instead of Hulu, and it's like, ooh.
This is coming to. Is it coming to Disney? I know it's coming to Hulu, but is it coming to Disney Plus? Is that rumor true?
Not in our region, probably like Australia or something.
I think in places where they don't have Hulu, they
that makes sense.
Get the Disney.
It's fun to think about.
Something that occurred to me while you guys were explaining all that is how she only had the illusion of freedom. She becomes betrothed to Max developmentally while she's like still a child, like early in the movie. So she doesn't really have any agency, and she doesn't she just kind of says, like I'll do it, like whatever, like because she's not able to think critically at that point. So so that's kind of her at the end of the movie. She's matured now. And she's like, why am I agreeing to do this thing that I said I would do when I was, technically like a kid? So that could play a part too. And then she's like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it like on my own terms. So yeah, I think that's something that's interesting too.
You know what else is interesting? What else is interesting is the fact that the mother committed suicide to try to escape her miserable life. And in a weird way, even she couldn't escape because her body came back. Like it wasn't her brain. You know what I mean? It's not like it was her brain, but it was kind of like, well, that's not the answer. You're trapped here,
You're gonna say we only have one body, but like this is like an alternate version of like, okay, different sort of second chance. Give the child what you always want,
It's very interesting how it was like that's her dad, technically, Christopher Abbott. And like watching that whole exchange with that in mind, it kind of recontextualizes it and makes it like feel even weirder and also like that much more like profound.
Yeah.
Again.
Velvet, Elvis. Thank you.
Velvet's on fire.
Happy Oscar season, Velvet Elvis.
Yeah, you got the Oscar fever.
I want to clarify too in that little intro video. I don't know if you guys know Tim Heidecker. He used to be on Adult Swim, right? For Tim and Eric. He apparently, and you can find them all on YouTube. He did these like really dry sense of humor Oscar specials for the past like 10 years. Like
on cinema, we just like kind of know
it would always be on Adult Swim, and so we kind of started watching that. And he has like a fake band, and he came up with this Oscar song, and I was like, okay, I gotta rip this for the intro video.
We're gonna get sued.
It's hilarious. No, we're not. We're not gonna get sued, but it's ridiculous.
We have to touch upon this.
Okay.
Is Emma winning the Best Actress? Is she gonna get it?
She keeps saying she will.
It's between her and Lily Gladstone.
Yeah. I don't know.
They're the two.
Lily Gladstone. But that's because they
I think of the personally, I would like to see Sandra Hüller take it.
Me too.
Her, I mean, it's very unlikely. But Emma Stone, like, for what in terms of what, like, I look at it from how challenging the role was, and it's more impressive for that. Emma Stone has to do a lot here. Also, Sandra Hüller does as well. I mean, that whole movie is basically dialogue, Anatomy of a Fall.
Anatomy, yeah.
And she's speaking 3 different languages. She's playing it so nuanced to where you don't know if she did it or not, and it plays either way, however you look at it. Like
such a ballet.
That is such a layered performance that I think her and Emma Stone are like the most deserving. Lily Gladstone's good in the movie. I feel like she doesn't get to do a ton. I don't know, but she's got she's got that narrative working for her.
The narrative is strong, and when you have a strong narrative, especially when money starts to come into play and right side of history starts to come into play, and you have certain things like that, I don't know, and that's the problem when it comes to like, well, we need to make sure that this is this way and this is that way. And it's like, yeah, but man, you just really just took away an incredible performance.
Right.
Yeah, just because you wanted to be a little bit more political, and then you're like, I don't know.
The best performance should always win. I know that's not how the Oscars works at all, but I think that's in a perfect.
I want to let you know that you just got 10 bigot points for saying just that.
I mean, look, she's gonna go on and make more movies. Like, this is not it. Like, she's gonna have another shot.
Yeah,
So, and that's
trying to write history.
This is the thing too. I feel like, we had Cinematech on last night. He has his own awards that you can vote on, kind of like his own Oscar ballot. He had to he left it open. So he let people vote for Lily Gladstone in both supporting and best actress. Best supporting actress was the category that she skyrocketed in. Everyone feels it should have been. So if you really think about it, if Lily Gladstone was in supporting, it would be Sandra Hüller and Emma Stone battling it out for Best Actress.
Yeah.
Duking it.
And I think, isn't the supporting actress category like pretty weak?
It's bad. It's not the best.
Like, so she should have been in there if we're being honest, right? Like,
well, you want to know, who's going to take the award away? Because at first, Poor Things was a lock for costume design, and then Barbie decided to go complaining that, oh, we're not gonna get anything, and then as soon as they had that complaint,
they get best song.
But as soon as they had the complaint, the odds switched. So originally, Poor Things was supposed to win costume design. Like that's how everybody had the odds. They throw out the complaint, and now suddenly Barbie's supposed to win it. Like, and it becomes like this whole thing where you're like,
we'll see.
When is the Oscars?
This Sunday.
Oh, it's this Sunday?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's very close. I'm very excited. I only in the past couple of years have I actually like tried to watch all the Best Picture noms and like, you know, kind of gotten invested in it, and it's actually pretty fun. I enjoy it.
So what's the incentive of winning an Oscars? Like, is it just for the title strictly, or is there any other like oh, if you win this, you're more likely to work with these people? Like what's the incentive of winning an Oscars?
There's a few. I guess there's a few answers. Like when last year when Everything Everywhere All at Once won, you know, now A24 has all this prestige attached to it. So it's good for the studio who makes the movie. It's good for the directors of the movie. It's going to get them more opportunities for sure. Like they're definitely going to continue to make movies. The actress or the actor, like whoever's involved, it's really just going to kind of, if they
give them more work.
If they're not already like on the map, it's going to put them on the map. And so that's sort of the way it is. You know, it's just like a nice thing to be recognized for.
Yeah.
It's also the number one way that if a movie can market itself, it's the number one way. Hey, Oscar winner, because the movie, it used to be way back in the day, it used to be that like they would just say Oscar winner, but now they wanted to get so much marketing out that they even put the nominee on there in the trailers and things like that.
Is in this movie, like on promotional material. They'd be like Oscar nominee.
It's a financial marketing. It's crazy.
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. Actually,
there's a few different sides to it,
and it's shiny.
Matt says, do you think Emma Stone is trying to veer towards more actor roles and prestige films, or do you think she'll still do more fun movies like Zombieland? Also, do you think she'll ever do Cruella too?
I think she seems like a very like down to earth kind of person from all the interviews I've seen in her. So I would not be surprised. Like she's going to continue to do both, I would say. Like but these are probably the movies that are like more satisfying as like as an actor for her. Like she gets more out of something like this in a different way. Like you can get more, I'm sure she takes something out of Zombieland, but it's different than something like Poor Things. So I would guess she's probably going to be versatile. She's going to continue to do a lot of different things.
I think so too. I don't see her doing the Zombieland. I could see her doing Cruella too because of the check.
Yeah.
But, I think Zombieland is kind of far gone now. I don't think that is a thing for her. I don't even think she wants anything to do with superhero movies anymore. I think she might have even said that somewhere.
She did a superhero thing, did she?
John, we were talking about this. She was offered a role in something, and she said, "I'll only do it for $40 million," and she doesn't care. And they were like, no. And she's like, okay, you know.
Yeah. But to be fair, a lot of people are trying to get away from the superhero thing. So I don't blame them at all either. She's a great actress.
Why are they trying to get away from the superhero thing?
It's no longer a guarantee.
It's just got a stigma around it now. Like back in the day, it was more like, I don't know. It's just kind of like if tomorrow it was announced that like Ryan Gosling was going to be in the next Marvel or DC project, I would just like sigh. I'd be like, oh, that's such a bummer. Like, because I look at actors like him and Leo and like people who don't do Marvel or anything superhero related, and I'm like, I appreciate them so much because I'm like, you are and maybe this is narrow-minded me, but you are a real actor. Like you're not doing that sort of low-hanging fruit shit, and it's like,
oh, it's to get like quick fame kind of thing. Is what you're saying?
It's just like it's
big check.
Superhero movies in general to me now, and I'm this is just for my point of view, but like superhero movies in general now are like, I'm just over. I'm tired. Like and that's not to say there's like I'm excited for like the Batman 2 and like stuff like that.
DC stuff.
Yeah, like there's good stuff coming. I would like to think, but by and large, like all of it's just kind of just like a flat line for me. So
also,
yeah,
some of it's the fandom too. So you're going to be judged a lot harsher if you don't do a good job. Case in point, Brie Larson, who is a great actress, but you wouldn't know if you listen to the certain people. Like it's one of those where she got killed so bad for Captain Marvel. Now, to be fair, she didn't do a good job as Captain Marvel. Not necessarily her fault, but she got killed so bad that we all forgot that she won an Oscar. Like it was one of those types of deals. And just you have things like it's too much for some people where they're like, I don't even want to deal with that.
Marvel and like superhero fans in general are just like very critical, and it's kind of got like a toxic fan base around it now, and it's just nothing that I'm like. I would so much rather talk about Poor Things with you guys for an hour and a half than like spend any kind of brain power on any kind of fucking superhero shit anymore. Like that's just where I'm at, and I feel like a lot of people are at that point now too, where it's just harder and harder to get excited.
You know,
that's why
funny?
We love Nerdy Film Girl. She classes up our stream.
As somebody who like myself, who's like newer into like watching films and stuff, I don't think I know yet what great acting is. I know what bad acting is. Like when I see a bad actor, I'm like, that's bad. But I don't if I had like 5 good actors, I wouldn't know which one was the greatest. Like I wouldn't be able to tell. I'm not sure how to tell.
Because there's great actors who are in terrible movies.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And you know, and it's very much a case by case basis where, you know, like Nick Cage he does a ton of straight to VOD crap, and he's, you know, one of the best actors arguably of all time. So it's very much just like a case by case basis.
Well, on the Nick Cage comment, I love that. That was a great way to kind of go into the end here. I guess we can do final thoughts on the film. And thank you guys so much, by the way, for joining us today. I wanted to do a whole slew of panels for a bunch of the Best Picture nominees, but I felt this one would be really interesting to do. And I'm so glad you were all able to be here for that. So I guess any final words on the film, and then we'll do a final where everyone can see. No, not like a real sequel, but John, final words on Poor Things.
Poor Things is a great film. If you haven't seen it, you should see it. I also think Poor Things, if Emma Stone doesn't win Best Actress, Poor Things won't win any Oscar.
I think that's all they're kind of really locked for, right? Yorgos isn't winning best. He's not winning Best Director.
Barbie has
like production design. I think they just won.
Barbie's the number one. Barbie's the number one for both, for production and costume.
Come on.
Is this the Vegas? Is this the Vegas prediction?
So he's talking about the odds. This is not to say that they couldn't win. It's just
they could.
It's very unlikely. Is what he's.
To me, then this would be like the best year to be in a pool, because like a lot of the people voting in that probably did see Barbie and they saw Oppenheimer, but they probably didn't see a lot of other things because they're like now they feel like, oh, Barbie's getting this. So
they just didn't see
this might be a good. We're not gonna pull a bum bridge and tell you what stock to buy, but we're gonna.
Listen, I've never
gonna tell you what to maybe vote in your Oscar pool, because you might make some money.
I never bet on Oscars before, but I just today put $50 on Paul Giamatti for Best Actor. It's a long shot, but if I win, I get $325. So
I think you're just out of $50.
I got paid today, so it's all good. I got my tax return. I thought it would be fun to just kind of make the Oscars itself more exciting to watch. So
I don't think anybody would be mad if he won. I will say that.
I wouldn't be. I'd be very happy for multiple reasons, because it is the best performance out of the nominees, in my opinion.
It's a win-win.
And so, I'm invested in that. So we'll see.
Sick.
Definitely, very likely I burned $50 though. You're not wrong, John. But it is what it is. Scared money don't make money.
Hey.
Andrea, past lives? I'm not past lives. Sorry. Poor things. Apparently, we all know the movie I love the
That's
most.
a whole other stream right there.
I feel like I already touched on a lot, so I don't have anything else to add. All I have to say is it's a great movie. I recommend seeing it. Don't bring your mom if you go. Just don't bring your
that
mom
would be
with
so
you.
awkward. Yeah, don't do that.
That's awesome. Well, I feel honored to be here. Thank you guys for coming along on this journey with us. Really appreciate being a part of this.
Yeah. Thank you all. Mark, did you have any last words on the film?
Just that it's very good in my opinion, and if you're at all curious about it, if somehow after watching all this that you are gonna go check it out, you should definitely do so. Just know kind of like what. Do a little bit of research. Maybe there's some things in it that could offend you, and if that sounds like something you don't feel like dealing with, then obviously you don't need to watch it. But one thing I love, same with our Beau is Afraid stream that we did like almost a year ago now, I think, year and some change. But I actually learn so much more about these movies as we talk about them like this. So I value these streams so much because I get a lot out of it personally. It's not just like for the audience, like it's actually great for me because it helps me hearing all you guys talk about it, and it helps me understand it better too. So these are just a great
awesome.
time. Happy to be here. So that's all I got.
Let's sit through our thoughts. We have a lot.
Yes. Real quick, Matt says to you, I think you're winning that bet. Paul Giamatti's winning.
Dude, it's a long shot and a half, but I mean, shit, man. Why not?
You never know.
Why not go?
Yeah.
I mean, it's either him or Killian. Nobody else is winning it, so I figure.
True.
And none of us would be upset if Killian won. We love Killian in that role for sure. But I think we all kind of, a part of our heart wants Paul Giamatti to win.
The interesting thing about it, before we wrap, is it's like Killian, Paul, and Jeffrey Wright have spent so much of their career as being sort of like the side guy, like never quite a leading man. And then this year they all get to like really turn in these like career defining performances. So it's a shame that they can't all win because they're all so good. But yeah, I'm hoping for any one of them will be good because like Killian deserves his flowers, like Paul deserves his flowers, like they're all so good. So
beautifully said.
Yes.
Thank you.
So now I guess we'll go to the finale. Well, John, where will you be? What are you doing on your channel? Let us and the people know.
I have shorts and videos and community posts coming out. I have my Dragon Ball Z tribute video to Akira Toriyama coming out tomorrow because the GOAT, the legend, the guy who really helped my childhood. So there's that. And we'll see you on Monday Night Madness. Bummer just got to change that title. And Brand versus Demand on Wednesday. And yeah, we'll just keep it going.
And just to let everyone in the chat know, John recently broke a $2 million, not $2 million, $2 million views on a Madam Web short that he put out recently. So that's pretty amazing.
Check it out. 3 million coming at.
Yeah, it's really good. So check it out. If you're not subscribed to any of these people, subscribe to them sooner than later.
That's huge.
Andrea?
You can find me on YouTube is probably where I post the most. I have a podcast. It's called Pranzata Podcast, Pranzata. I interview all different types of people. I interview musicians, comedians. I had a doctor on the other day. We talked about hormones and like hormone balance. Like I'm just into everything. So I like to interview different people. Also a musician. You can find more of that stuff on my Instagram, Pranzata, Pranzata. And I'm Philadelphia based. So if anybody lives in Philadelphia, you can find like where my gigs are, on my Instagram. That's it.
Man, miss you, Pranzata.
Thanks. I miss you guys too.
Awesome. I can't believe it. We did it just like Vanity Fair.
Oh, the round tables.
Yeah.
Those are all great this year, by the way. If anyone's into interviews by directors, writers, Hollywood Reporter does the round table, and Hollywood Reporter does the one-on-one acting. So, Mark, what's going on with you?
Yeah, you can find me at Tales from the Shelf on Instagram and YouTube, where I'm making stuff about mainly horror movies, but I talk about physical media like collecting and sort of the psychology of collecting. I have a few videos about that too. So I'm looking to do more stuff like that soon. Just like physical media, sort of like a little bit of a different kind of view where it's like maybe you don't need everything. So it's a little bit different where, kind of exploring like, that sort of that side of it that isn't as talked about. So yeah, check me out.
Love that point of view.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. And thank you so much to everyone in the chat. I'll pull this up real quick. Tim says, thanks everyone for talking and analyzing the film. I didn't like Poor Things as much as I'd hoped, but you guys revealed some things I missed. So
that's so awesome. That's a great comment. Like you didn't like the movie that much, but you stayed and watched all of this and you were willing to engage with it and kind of maybe learn a little bit about it. That's awesome. More people should be like that.
Sometimes films hit people in different ways, and I think like that's why if you guys watch people's Oscars like the way they ranked their best pictures this year, and had a different 5. I think they were all in different orders, and I think
great year.
There's so many factors to what gravitates towards you, what appeals to you, what you love. And I think the fact that this year in general is so good that it's so great to see everyone's perspectives on what movies like how they rank them and things like that.
Yeah,
so
we're not all just getting along and like saying yeah, and then the conversation's done.
Exactly.
Yeah, like I could look at anyone's Best Picture nominees ranking and be like, you know what? Yeah, I could see that. I could see that being your number one. Even Barbie. Like if that's the movie that, first of all, if you watched all 10, that's a huge accomplishment in and of itself. And then I couldn't really, it's not for me to say, actually it should be holdovers, Past Lives, Poor Things, Anatomy of a Fall. But, that's just the beauty of movies.
Well, I'm not going to watch all 10 of the movies by Sunday, that's for sure. But maybe I could get one of them in.
I mean, they're all worth watching, I would say.
Past Lives is your second runner-up, you'd say?
Yeah, Past Lives.
Is that in the theaters or?
I was in theaters.
It was
now it's
not anymore.
Not now, but it was. Yeah.
Showtime for a bit.
There's probably no way I could see it then, right?
You'd have to pay for it right now.
Hulu.
I don't think it's free yet. Wait, Hulu?
I think Hulu has it.
That's awesome. Get on it.
Yeah,
Good to know, John.
Yeah.
Do a little bit of Google. So Past Lives is on Hulu?
I believe it is on Hulu.
Yeah, okay, that's awesome.
Anybody who hosts that movie is smart.
Andrea, you must watch it. You're gonna love it. I would say that's the one to watch before Sunday for you.
Yeah, even like a $4.99 rent if you can.
I was just gonna say, worst case, it's gonna be like $5 for $6 rental, depending on like where you rent it.
Or and Disney, do not shut us down. Just get the free trial and then cancel that thing.
VPN, yeah, do it.
Yes,
man.
Or the holdover, I would say too. You would like that too, Andrea.
Those are my two.
But I would say Past Lives.
I don't want to hold you guys hostage for long, but like really quick, what is Past Lives about? Like, is in quick terms.
Tracy, you take this one.
Yeah.
I'm get quick about this one.
If it's too complicated, I'll just.
It's really not. I just don't want to go on a whole I'll go on like a whole diatribe about it.
It's not complicated. I'll make it like a one sentence. To a woman that used to live in Korea moves to the United States as a child, but she has a best friend while she's in Korea who comes into her life again, and she's living in New York and she's married, and it's kind of like what different paths you could have taken in life. And I'll just leave it at that.
Oh.
Really good.
Ooh,
it's sort of like a romance, but not a conventional romance where, it's all sunshine and rainbows. It's very good.
Ooh, okay. I'm interested.
More connections, and it's also connections and shit, there was something else I was going to say about, but yeah, it's about connections. It's not like a rom-com or anything like that. It's self-discovery and
not in the way we use that word.
Yeah, because you no one's a villain in the movie. You love everyone, and that's what makes it so fascinating.
Yes, exactly. John Magaro should have gotten some Oscar
Something.
I know.
He was so
And
good.
TOU had an Indie Spirit Award nomination.
I
so
love
was
that
nice.
cast.
That was
That's
very
good.
nice.
Yeah, that's good. Everyone in it is so good, honestly.
Yeah.
But
Well, everyone, thank you all. It is Oscar season. Thank you, Luke. I know Luke just shut up and he said his
Hey, Luke.
he hated Imaginary. So
Oh my God.
I'm sad to hear that. But thank you, Luke, for stopping by.
Yeah, with the knowledge.
I guess Imaginary won't get the Oscar next year. So
No,
thanks so
probably
much,
not.
and we'll see you all next time.
take it easy, everyone.